Welcome to another edition of our ISL virtual discussions, where we speak about Invest Saint Lucia's role in Saint Lucia's economy and how we are supporting the government of Saint Lucia in recovery post-COVID-19. Today we will be speaking about tourism, and I have with me Alana Lancico, who's the Investment Services Manager, Philbert Lubrin, our Senior Investment Services Officer, and Camille Michel, who is our Investment Services Officer for Tourism. So today we are speaking, like I said, about tourism, which is a big deal for most St. Lucians. So I will start with a question. St. Lucia has shared its beauty for decades. With such an abrupt halt in the tourism sector, how is St. Lucia's economy affected?
Well, obviously, our economy is affected immensely. Approximately 10,000 people work directly in the tourism sector, and there's estimated that another 20,000 work indirectly within the sector. So when you obviously have airports closed, flights not coming in, hotels closed, restaurants only doing takeout or delivery services, taxis are not being used, the manufacturers, the farmers that provide services to the sector are obviously at a disadvantage. Cash flow has essentially dried up, and then of course the persons actually directly employed by the sector don't have guests and customers to serve. So obviously businesses have to make to send persons home during this time. So obviously it's quite a challenge. It's not a challenge St. Lucia is facing alone. There's several countries, major cities around the world seeing the same thing, whether it be Paris or Hawaii or Miami, you name it. But I think it also presents an opportunity for St. Lucia to look at how the sector can do better, serve its guests better, because airports will open eventually. Persons will return to St. Lucia at some point, so the sector will still be around. The challenge now is to make the sector better and more resilient so that the private sector here that supports the sector can continue to work.
Okay. And what can we see up ahead for recovery of the tourism sector?
Well, as I mentioned, the borders are not going to stay closed forever. Once persons feel more comfortable to travel internationally, they will start to come back. What is going to be key is, again, how airlines manage this crisis in terms of ensuring their guests' safety, and then also how the hotel sector and the dining sector will adapt to ensure that, persons are comfortable. There's vigorous health and safety protocols in place. There's social distancing in place. Safeguards to ensure that, the disease is not spread. And persons want to feel assured that, if another resurgence was to happen of the disease, that persons could get home quickly and get back to a place where the country and themselves can reset, recuperate, and move on from there.
It also gives us an opportunity here to rebrand ourselves. I mean, see the opportunity in COVID. We've been known for many years as the #1 honeymoon destination in the world. Maybe we can be the safest #1 honeymoon destination in the world. Change it around a little bit, add something, a little spicy, and we should make us different. I think in terms of recovery, the whole world is going to recover at different phases, and we should take the opportunity to take the fact that we've managed this COVID here in St. Lucia to a degree that many other countries are not, and maybe get ourselves up there on a list of one of the safest countries, and establishing proper protocols and stuff, because all these things will matter. There's not going to be anything called post-COVID. COVID is going to be around like the flu. It's going to be around. First, we have to learn to live with COVID, and life is going to change because of COVID, and it's going to become our new normal. So, a recovery should really look at how we look at our product. I mean, it's very important now that we change around and find other sectors that we can lean on. COVID has shown us that, of course, tourism is very fragile. The hurricane season tried to show us that many, many times, but we found resilience in that. This is different. This is something that affects people. This has shut down the entire world. No hurricane has ever shut down the entire world. And this is what we need to look at in terms of recovery and how we recover and how we position ourselves as a country. We compete with the world for everything. I just want to reiterate that from our last sector review, that we compete with the world for everything. And tourism is there's nothing that is different about tourism. In fact, it's very fierce in tourism. So that's what I think.
It is, but to also expound on what Alana was saying, Magma Global did a survey of Americans who showed that they are willing to travel to the Caribbean within the next 6 months, whether it be by airplane or by cruise ships. And that gives us more confidence in the recovery of Saint Lucia. You saw places like Asia not having so much tourism going that way in the next 6 months, but the Caribbean was number one in terms of persons want to travel to here.
Okay, would any of you know why, or any suggestions as to why the Caribbean is one of the top places that people would want to come to in the next 6 months? Do you think we're already finding our niche as one of the safest places?
I think it's because if you look at North America being our source market, persons in terms of there's going to be people that don't want to travel and people that do want to travel. In terms of those that do want to travel, first they're looking at places in close proximity. So maybe it's a different state, for a drive, a long weekend, etc. Then you start looking at places outside of that. And the Caribbean is an obvious choice in that we're literally 3 to 4 hours away from New York or Miami and Atlanta. Persons are not comfortable to start making long haul travel, 8 hours plus, to destinations that have been adversely affected by COVID. I mean, I saw an article this week where Costa Rica was touted as a country in Latin America that has been able to be successful in their battle against COVID, and they've had deaths. Saint Lucia has not had any deaths, knock on wood. Hopefully that continues. So persons are going to look at places that were able to contain the disease, especially if you are in a location where it has been a very difficult situation for your state or county or city to contain the disease. So if you're in New York, for example, some places of that state have been, under some kind of lockdown rules since middle of March. They're just starting to get to a place where the governor feels that some parts of the state can return to some kind of normalcy in the middle of this month, but in other counties, they're going to remain shut. So persons are going to be looking for a place that, is sunny, has the beach, is close, but has a track record of keeping people safe during this time. And I think the health and the officials should be commended for the work that they have done in containing the disease, because that's really going to be a calling card, I think, for other travelers who will be ready to travel in 6 months' time when they're cold and winter is approaching and they've been locked up inside their house for months and they just want to get out because they're starting to lose their minds. So Saint Lucia and the Caribbean is a natural choice.
Okay, so how will ISL work towards bringing in tourism investments post-COVID-19?
We haven't stopped. It's ongoing right now. We still speaking to investors. Saint Lucia still remains a very, very hot topic in investments. We have investors that are keen on coming to the island. We have investors that are been liaising with us. We are still helping those that are here already to get their projects off the ground. Of course, stimulation of the economy is of utmost importance right now. With so many people being home and so many people having fragments of what they knew as employment. Some people have lost their work. Think about people that the day-to-day people that made money from tourism, to the guys that used to make their daily bread by making the little hats for tourists when they see them. Everybody is affected. These people have families and they have lives. So it's a balance. It's a very, very crazy balance, but it is a balance. And investors we're still helping investors because, as I said, investment is very, very like investors will look at where they're getting help. They look at who is working with them, and that is what we're trying to do. So that is what ISL is trying to do. This period will never be over, as I said previously. There's no post-COVID. There's life with COVID. So we need to look at ways of doing more meetings via video conferencing, or just to keep interest and keep our investors happy and help the country, which is actually our mandate at Saint Lucia. It's a socio-economic mandate.
Yeah, just to echo Philbert's point, investors are 100% committed to coming to Saint Lucia. Still, we have investors who before were not looking to pump as much money in, but now they actually see that tourism will be here and will always be here, and we need to pump more money in to Saint Lucia because we are one of the #1 destinations, and the investors know that, and we're still seeing that.
Okay. So the Tourism Stimulus and Investment Act was brought up in Parliament recently. It was recently extended. So what does this mean for our investors and for ISL?
That's fantastic news because the stimulus allows investors to have access to concessions that will assist them in getting their products off the ground. Again, tourism is highly competitive. Investment is highly competitive. And we have to make sure that we provide investors with competitive concessions so that they come to St. Lucia. We're not competing with the Caribbean. We're not competing with the Western Hemisphere. We're competing with the world. And we deal with people in different time zones. And people are interested. At the end of the day, they come in because we can help them. We can provide them with concessions that are going to help their business model. And they, in turn, going to help our country. The spin-off effects of investment. I mean, people think of concessions in a vacuum where we are giving, but there's so much more that we get from investment of any sort, not just tourism. You have spin-offs, and again, that is what Invest in Lucia, the mandate, socioeconomic development. You have little communities springing up. You have people innovating, and you see where you have construction going on. You have the lady that comes along with her car and sells breakfast to everybody. I mean, that lady now has money to do something else. She can now feed her kids, or can now invest in a little kitchen, employ a couple more people, right? So there are the spin-off effects of tourism. The stimulus it's good that it was extended, and we are getting take up on it. Investors are happy that it was extended. And even now, with the new investors that we're getting, they can get to benefit from this, because this would have closed off and we're not given opportunities to benefit from this. And we'd have to find other ways of assisting them. And this is going to get aggressive once the world opens back up. And we have to be aggressive. And the tourism stimulus it's aggressive, right? So.
Yeah. And I also want to add that the Tourism Stimulus Act is not just for foreign investors, it's also available to local investors. I think we need to drive that point home. That locals can benefit from this incentive, and you have until March 31st, 2021. So please get on there, read it, reach out to us. We're willing to help you locals and foreigners.
Yeah, a local business can benefit from any incentive regime in St. Lucia that is qualifying. So by level of investment and number of jobs, contribution to the economy. That is what the decisions around concessions are based on. There's not a distinction between a foreign business can get this concession versus a local business. Once your business qualifies for the concession under the legislation, you're making the contribution to the economy, you are able to get a concession.
Help your country help you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much, Philbert, Alana, and Camille. Do any of you have any closing remarks? Anything that you want our Saint Lucians and investors to know?
I think that I would say that, there's a lot of, talk about diversifying away from tourism. I think that we shouldn't necessarily look to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Saint Lucia is very good at tourism. It's innately tied to who we are. We are a destination that provides culture, sand, sea, entertainment, proximity to, markets, and a culture that persons cannot access anywhere else. So I think the goal going forward for tourism should be striking a balance with providing all those things and doing it in a more sustainable way, and a way that takes into account health and safety for what the next 5-10 years looks like, in the event that maybe we get a vaccine for COVID, maybe we don't, maybe we have another disease that pops up, maybe there's something else that pops up. So Invest Saint Lucia will continue to promote the tourism sector while we promote and work to promote other services within the local economy that would benefit in terms of job creation and foreign exchange being brought into this country. So there has to be a balance of both, but it's not about abandoning one sector to jump into others. We need to look at everything in the round and then make smart decisions about that.
Keep the baby.
Okay, thank you. Finally, I am Claudia McDowell, Communications Officer at Invest Saint Lucia. I want to encourage you, our listeners, to like, share, subscribe, and comment below any questions that you may have for us that we can get to answering. Also, feel free to contact us if you have any questions about investment. You can visit our website at www.investsaintlucia.com or email us at info@investsaintlucia.com. Thank you very much.